I wonder if Miles Morales, had he not been a minority, would they have given him the full film treatment versus just an animated feature? You know what I mean? That's what I'm wondering, because the thing I'm thinking is that he did phenomenally in the show. I mean, we saw that. You know what I mean? And where's that thing? Here we go. Right here. Forward to Bob Taylor. Here we go.
Yeah, I think that was one of those things where I know you had told me it was, you saw it in the theater, told me it was great. I didn't get a chance to see it in the theater, but I did see it once it came to cable or Netflix, whichever one I saw it on. I can't remember which now. And it happened to be one of those things where it's like we just put it on because Brian was here. We had some other kids in the house, whatever, and it was like, hey, something that's appropriate for him. And I'm watching it.
And it was.
This is great. Yeah. This is actually
you're talking
phenomenal.
Now, that animation.
It was a very interesting treatment to the whole character.
That animation process was a soon to be copyrighted Sony process. So Sony created what you visually saw in the animation process. They didn't use anything standard, and they really made you feel like you were in a comic book. I liked that they were Into the Spider-Verse brought in all these other Spider-Man characters. It's almost like it's a double-edged sword, because it's almost like they're like, I don't think Morales can do this on his own. Bob Taylor is in the house.
There we go.
Bobby T, we're at the end of the show. But Bob T, you can catch Bobby on New Comic Book Wednesdays, featured right here on DJB Productions Network. Make sure you check out his playlist. He has a lot of great stuff. Bobby is a huge comic book crazy guy. He's at every Comic-Con that's imaginable, local and far. And right now he's on the show here. Bobby, what is your opinion? Because we're kind of backtracking a little bit, but what is your opinion on Tom Holland, Spider-Man, leaving the MCU to go back to Sony?
I'm upset about it, actually. I was really enjoying. There was so much I was looking forward to with him being in Disney, just because it would have gave him options to interact with the X-Men, with the new Hulk movie, with Fantastic Four coming back, all sorts of stuff. It would have been, it really honestly would have been amazing. And now they're just sticking him back with Marvel, and I'm just really not feeling it.
What I said is that I truly believe is that, and you kind of have to use the Venom movie as the catalyst for this.
By the way,
it did made a lot of money.
Venom himself looked awesome.
Yeah, but the movie wasn't as much. But the movie made a ton of money. Hence why we had,
because everybody wanted to see Venom, and the guy that used to play Venom is like, all the chicks love that dude, just like Tom Holland.
Right. So now what you're talking about, what I said was,
I thought he was like, Eddie Brock is supposed to be like, like jock, muscle, bonehead. And the dude who they got to play Venom, I thought Brock Lesnar would have been a better choice. You know, I always thought Brock
Lesnar would have looked exactly like the comic book.
Exactly.
Honestly. You know what I mean?
But the guy they got to use for Venom was just, I just thought he came off as having like a clumsy, dumb presence.
Yeah. And Tom Hardy, although a great actor, Tom Hardy portrayed him as someone that was very endearing, very like
really seriously. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Tobey Maguire.
Yeah,
I didn't like the kid after Tobey, but I love Tom because you felt for Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we were saying though that Andrew Garfield was more New Yorker than Tobey Maguire was.
Well, I try and whenever people say this, like a lot of people get on your case about, and like me, I'm a DC guy.
Right.
So if I see a DC Comics movie, I'm going to pick it to shreds. Like, oh, you got this wrong, and oh, you got that wrong, and oh, you got this wrong. But lately, I've been trying to take all of these movies as an Elseworlds comic.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, to me, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was a Spider-Man in a different universe.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So,
yeah. And you know what, though? And here's the deal. And my opinion was, with this whole leaving the MCU, was that, and we agreed, Venom physically was a fun movie. It was an okay to watch movie. It wasn't worth the money that it made. Okay?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Right.
Personally, I got in for free. And if I hadn't gotten in for free, I wouldn't have gone.
Because, yeah, it wasn't worth the money in that sense. But now, it's almost like Sony said, we know this movie wasn't as good as the money we made. Because it actually was starting off slow, if you remember, because there was so much negative behind the movie. Oh, there's no Spider-Man. Oh, they're calling it symbiotes. And they're doing all this goofy stuff. It's not like the comic. I don't know if I want to go see this. And I think people were waiting to see if the movie was okay. And I thought they did an okay job of giving us Venom without Spider-Man. But,
well, it's like the same thing with the new upcoming Joker movie. How are you going to make a movie about the Joker without Batman?
Bruce Wayne's in it, and Thomas Wayne's in it.
Right.
But it's revamped with a different origin.
Right.
They said they're going by the Killing Joke with that, but they're saying it's a slightly different origin for Bruce.
Right.
Which I think fans are going to hate. They're just not going to like it.
Oh, absolutely.
But the thing is, I think Sony said, you know what? We got by with the skin of our teeth with Venom. Because quite frankly, the sales picked up after a month. Like it wasn't doing good in the beginning.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Well, it also came out at the same time as like another movie that was like real popular or something.
It was real popular, right? So it wasn't winning.
It was battling that other movie too.
Right.
If it had come out when it was like a weekend where it was nothing else was coming out except Venom, that movie would have made buku bucks.
Oh yeah, but I think what Sony is saying now, it's almost like, thank you MCU for making Spider-Man up here.
Right.
Okay. And now we're going to just say, we're going to take it back and add them to our stuff. So it's almost like you did the legwork for us because we couldn't get over whatever hoop is keeping us from making a really, truly great movie.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I mean, Disney has the power to do anything.
Aside from Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, Into the Spider-Verse was the only other Spider-Man movie that Sony did well.
You know what? I really liked the first Tobey Maguire movie.
It was okay. It was good. I didn't have a problem.
But when they got and to me, Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock was just like okay, I get it. It needed to be done. But then when they got to Spider-Man 3, they rushed everything with the black costume and everything. And that's when everything went downhill for them.
Well, Sam Raimi's going on record
saying, the Venom movie goes. The Venom movie I attribute to the same thing as that crappy-ass Fantastic Four movie that came out a few years ago. The only reason they made this Venom movie and they rushed it, and the reason it wasn't as good as it should have been, was because they were under contract to make a movie by a certain point, and if they didn't, they were going to lose the licensing to that character.
Yes.
So, and that's what a lot of people don't know about. They don't realize that they had a deadline. If they didn't make the movie by a certain point, they were going to lose the character. And that's exactly what they did with that Fantastic Four movie. They threw a crappy-ass movie out there so they didn't lose the rights to the character and they fulfilled their contract. So hopefully now they have a couple more years and now Tom Holland is back with them full-time. Maybe the next movie will be epic because, as you said, Tom Holland is no longer here. Now he's up here because of what Disney did for him.
Right. And here's the deal. If you go to Far From Home, you take out 3 characters. The face of Iron Man, the Skrulls, and Nick Fury. That's a Sony movie.
All day.
It was a Sony movie. So Spider-Man 3 can happen. They can follow that storyline and move on from there, and you'll get a third Spider-Man movie. It'll just be Sony. And honestly, the thing is, though, and me and Matt were just saying this right before you jumped on, that it is so easy to have your Sony characters jump in for a team up movie so that they're in the same universe, and then make your own movies that are still canon, but they just don't mention these other characters, so that way they can keep all the money.
Well, absolutely, because they're all in the same universe now.
Right.
It's just like the whole Deadpool thing. Deadpool hasn't been in anybody else's movies now, but they did that over last Christmas. They did that A Very Merry Deadpool movie where it was the same movie, but they cut out all the curse words, and they did that as a test shot because now Deadpool's going to be allowed to be in all those Marvel movies as long as he doesn't curse. In his own movies, he'll be allowed to say whatever the hell he wants.
Right, because they want him to do the Stan Lee role of being a cameo and everything, which will be funny. I think the fans will
be hilarious.
I think the fans will love that. But
because who doesn't love Deadpool?
Right, exactly.
Who doesn't love Deadpool?
Honestly, like I said, I'm a huge DC guy. I've been a fan of DC Comics my whole life, and I've always liked Spider-Man, and I was a big Thor enthusiast as a kid. But I was never a big fan of Deadpool. I could not until the movie came out. When the movie came out, and I saw what that character was, and his interactions with everything, I became an instant fan of Deadpool.
I can tell you, in line with what you're saying, Chris Hemsworth made me a Thor fan.
Okay,
you know what I mean? I wasn't into Thor because I'm like, it's like just mythology that they're just bringing into the comic books. I'm not really into it, blah, blah, blah. But when I watched the first Thor movie, I was like, this character is great. And I loved how he interacts in the Marvel universe.
Right.
And
now getting to see him, like me and my girlfriend were just reading, my girlfriend's a huge Wolverine fan.
Okay.
And we were just talking about this recently because Deadpool 2 was done wrong because he wasn't technically in that universe yet.
Right.
Even though they're all supposed to be occupying the same space, you can't do an X-Force movie without Wolverine.
Right.
But now that he is going to be able to be in those movies, you'll be able to get that whole Wolverine, Deadpool, domino dynamic.
Right. Exactly. And you know what? Like I said, when it comes down to it, Matt said it earlier. Are we going to go see all these movies, whether Sony makes it, whether...
No, we are. It could be called Spider-Man Takes a Shit on Sunday, and we're all going to go see it.
We are. We're going to be there
just to see whether or not he wipes with the left or the right.
Or if he uses webbing.
Or if he uses webbing. It's got to be useful for something.
We're all going to go see it, no matter what it is.
So I mean, if like Kevin Feige said, it wasn't meant to be forever, and it's one of those things where.
And I still don't think it's over yet.
I don't. But I honestly,
the two companies made too much money and got too much publicity out of it for it to be over. Eventually, I think you will see Tom Holland back in the Disney universe, even if it's only for a loan, the way it was originally.
I think you're going to see it after Venom 2 and after Morbius.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because Sony's going to use what Marvel did with Spider-Man to elevate their movies that were currently on this was kind of crappy and we got by the skin of our teeth with this Venom movie. You know what I mean? I think they're going to use the popularity of Tom Holland to sit there and be like, all right, hey, now we got this great movie because everybody wants to go see it because Tom Holland's in it. Spider-Man makes everything wonderful. Oh yeah, now that we got ourselves a little bit more money recouped, yeah, we can open up talks against Spider-Man, Marvel. Let's see what else you can do for us.
I believe it's going to happen. There's too much money to be made. People can't walk away from that kind of money.
And it's a business. They're not concerned.
As Spider-Man 3 goes, they're going to milk the shit out of this franchise. Okay, now that they have him back, even if he doesn't interact with any of those other Avengers characters again, they can do 6 more movies and each one be a different character of the Sinister Six, and then on the 7th movie they have them all against it. Like they were originally supposed to do. Tobey Maguire, right before they picked Andrew Garfield, had just signed up for 6 more movies, and at the end of those 6 movies, it was supposed to be him versus the Insidious Six or the Sinister Six, or however
they call it. Yeah,
but. So they can just do the same thing with Tom Holland, even if he
could.
never interacts with another Marvel character ever.
The
They
funny
still
thing
own
is,
the right to every Spider-Man character.
the Insidious 6 always comes up, regardless of what indentation of Spider-Man you get. So you know that that's what they want.
Right.
In their end game, they're like, we have to put this movie together.
You want to turn me to a fucking Secret Wars movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And now, can they do that, Sony? I don't think they can do a Secret Wars movie properly. I think they needed it to be an MCU movie.
I think so.
You know, but there's supposed to be a Craven solo movie.
Yeah.
How that would work, I don't know.
I've also been told that Man-Bat is supposed to be, or Michael Morbius is supposed to be doing the whole thing around Michael Morbius.
Well, yeah, that's it. They're supposed to have the Morbius movie come out after Venom 2.
Right.
Jared Leto is attached to the Morbius movie.
Right.
So it was recently said that, breaking news, Tom Holland will be a part of Venom 2 and will be a part of Morbius. So
right.
it reinforced what I was thinking, that like, let's take the high that Marvel did for our Spider-Man and now milk the shit out of it, to coin your phrase, and let's make these two movies big and huge.
Well, absolutely. I mean, how can you not work off of Disney's, perfection? You know what I'm saying? Look what they're doing for Star Wars. Do you know they just built this whole Galaxy's Edge thing that the whole world wants to go see? And the reason they did it is because Disney plans on 10 more years of Star Wars films.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't anybody else going to capitalize on that too? If they made Spider-Man, Disney is what made Spider-Man what he is now. So why wouldn't that other company capitalize on it? Why wouldn't Marvel Studios capitalize on it?
Right. It's money to be made. And at the end of the day, it is a business. They really are not concerned or worried about what the fans are looking to get or looking to want, unless that decision equates to this.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's it. They're not concerned what you want, Bob Taylor. They're not concerned what you want, Matt Sunner. They're concerned about, we're going to put something out, we're going to make money, and if it bombs, and we're going to get rid of it and move on to something else, or we're going to sit there and we're going to milk this out until it does bomb, which is what they did with Spider-Man 3. And if you go back, Sam Raimi said, like, Spider-Man 3 was just a big bucket of shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't like it himself. It was his movie. But he said,
the best part of that movie was the movie poster before 9/11.
Yeah.
I have the original poster in my basement. It was a big subway
with the towers. With the towers.
And you saw the reflection in his eye of the towers. And then when 9/11 happened, they had to take that poster down.
Yeah.
But that was the best part of that movie, was the movie poster.
There was a scene that was taken out of the movie where he was doing a helicopter chase, and he webbed the helicopter between the Twin Towers.
Yep.
And that was just like, it was like a fly being caught in a web.
Yep.
It was so, the video, and I seen like the scene, like they showed the scene before, and it was just such a cool scene to watch, because you're like, this is a spider and a fly. Right. I said, it's so cool how they did that. And like I said, there's so much you can do with Spider-Man, and Tom Holland by far did a great job. I did like Andrew Garfield, I ain't gonna lie. And honestly, aside from saying I could pick apart any movie, I did like the Amazing Spider-Man series. The thing that I try to equate, because I'm a film major over a comic book guy, I'm a film major, and Todd McFarlane had said this too. You cannot put 5 years of comics into an hour-and-a-half movie.
This is true.
You can't do it. The longevity of a comic book is like this, whereas a movie, it's like this. So your shelf life on a movie where Bob, you're frozen. Shelf life on a movie side is very, very different. So you kind of have to do some embellishment. You kind of have to do, Bob, I'm going to put you in the green room and bring it back in. Bob, are you there? Bob is frozen. Bob is frozen. Bob is frozen. Mr. Freeze! He froze him. And the thing.
Wrong universe.
Bob, if you can hear me, get out and get back in.
I can still hear him.
Can you hear him? I can't hear him at all.
Yeah, I was hearing it sound like dishes rattling around. We
No,
may have completely lost him at this
No,
point.
that's my studio where you have dishes.
Oh, that's your studio. Oh, okay. That's Mrs. DJB making all that ruckus.
Because my studio is right near my kitchen. But we lost
Thankfully,
Bob.
my studio has a door.
Hopefully Bob's getting back in. But like I said, there's a lot to come up with this. There's a lot of Spider-Man down the pike. Here comes Bob again. Bobby's back on. There we go. Right back on again. There's a lot of Spider-Man to be had, and there's a lot of stuff. Whether Sony does it, whether Marvel does it, I think for the last 10, 12 years, we got a really nice run of Marvel. We really did. And so if now we're going to focus now on individual movies again, we have Doctor Strange, we have Black Panther, we have Blade coming up, I think, in Phase 5 or whatever the case would be. But if you notice, the Phase 4 at the Comic-Con was not impressive at all. Because
there was a couple of things. Remember what I said about Secret Wars? That was one of the banners that was hung at Comic-Con.
Was it?
Yes.
They didn't mention it, though. It
was one of the banners that was hung under the Phase 4. Okay, right. It was a Secret Wars banner. They didn't bring it up in any kind of conversation, but the banner was there. Now, how do you do Secret Wars without Spider-Man?
Right. And I think here's the deal. And it goes back to, once again, I think by the time the con came, right, we are pressured, Marvel, to put something out. We can't confirm this, that, or the other thing because we still have this deal going through. We have a Sony deal that's fallen through. We don't know what's happening with this yet. So therefore, we can't move forward with Plan A because we don't know if Plan A is going to work. But we have to provide something because I equate it to Metallica. Jason Newsted leaves. We put out Saint Anger to say, hey, we're still here, even though that's horrible. You understand what I'm saying? And I think the same thing happened in Marvel's Phase 4. The Phase 4 presentation, half of it, actually a little bit more than half, were television shows. And if you want to get even worse about it, those television shows are only 6 episodes long. So they're not even television shows, they're miniseries. Okay? Yeah. So, don't give me, the Thornbirds and say, oh, you gave me a cinematic thing for Phase 4. You know what I mean? Don't give me, that's the problem I have with it. The Phase 4 thing, I think it's like, hey, we need to put something out. Just give me something. Kevin's over there. What do you got for me, guys? I need something to put up here that we can confirm. And that's what it is. And I think
now they got part of Phase 4 also is another Miss Marvel movie.
Yes, which hopefully it'll be a little bit better.
I enjoyed the first movie. And even as a DC fan, I still ripped it apart. You know what I'm saying? Because, sorry, but Marvel was a dude.
Yes.
Which
I thought that was going to be Jude Law. I really did thought it was going to be Jude Law. It was going to be Marvel. Yeah. And to make it Annette Bening was just like, oh, really?
Yeah.
It didn't make much sense. I liked her as Captain Marvel.
I dug her. And I liked her all the way up, and that just might just be me. I liked her all the way up until she showed up in Endgame with a fucking new haircut.
Well, that's part of the comic book, though, isn't it? Yeah. As far as I know, that is. It's in the newer Ultimates. I mean, Captain Marvel's got that haircut, but she was sexy.
You didn't get the helmet anymore in Endgame, with the mobile.
The funny thing was, though, is that Endgame was shot before Captain Marvel.
Right.
So what you're getting is everybody was like, why wasn't Captain Marvel so pinnacle in Endgame? She did 1, 2 things, and that's it. She was in and out. It's because her movie wasn't even fucking made yet. So they didn't know the impact that she was going to have as far as whether fans were going to dig her, not dig her. Are we going to know what she is? She didn't have a development when that movie was made. So that's the funny thing, too, because you got to remember, too, all these movies are being made at the same time because we have to maintain
continuity,
ages, the whole 9 yards. These people are not getting younger. Okay, now, you know, everybody's like, I haven't read any of them because there are a lot of trolling things, but like is Tony Stark coming back to the MCU? I would like to see Tony Stark as an AI. I think that would be kind of neat.
I think we're going to get, and I think we're going to get Chris Evans back too.
You think?
Well, again, one of the Wave 4 banners that hung was Dark Avengers.
Nice.
So they can bring all these dead characters back, and they're the Dark Avengers now.
Right.
So,
well, the other thing was too with the Dark Avengers, wasn't that what's his face? Which once again now gets kind of messed up with the Sony deal, but wasn't that Osborn? Norman Osborn was the leader of the Dark Avengers. He took on like the Patriot armor and made his own Avengers, and they kind of like looked. He made them look good, to look like the heroes.
But even if you just get a Robert Downey Jr. cameo, you know what I'm saying? They said, oh, Robert Downey Jr. makes the most amount of money out of any of the actors for all these movies. Okay? Hey, Robert Downey Jr., we paid you X amount of money for your last appearance in our movie. Guess what? We're going to double that. Guess what Robert Downey Jr. says? What time should I be there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe it. I know I'd be there. You know what I mean? I mean, come on now. I mean, like you said, my father says it all the time. He goes, if these guys, because he always hears when he sees an actor's like, oh, I don't want to play this role. I want to. He said, make the money and shut up. Who cares about artistic anything? Just get your money and leave. And it's the truth.
Anything too. Robert Downey Jr. has always said that, you know, the reason why he does so much acting anymore is one thing that keeps him from going back to doing coke again.
Yeah, right.
He's going to start the first morning he wakes up thinking maybe I should do a few lines and be like, hey, Iron Man, got a slot for Iron Man, another movie.
You know, it's funny when we say this particular statement. The guy who played the Red Skull was it Hugo Weaving or what was it?
Hugo Weaving.
Yes. Yeah. He got to be like, this is not a role that challenges me as an actor. Blah 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 blah. Okay, good. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to The Walking Dead. Get the guy that plays the gay guy with one hand, and he can do anybody we want because he's right. Because he does voiceover. So who cares? You know? And let me tell you something, he played a better Hugo Weaving than Hugo Weaving. Okay, you know. And the funny thing was about him is that they said people didn't realize that wasn't him, and he said what I was doing was not the Red Skull. I was doing Hugo Weaving doing the Red Skull. And I said, perfect. That's great. And
it's like, hey, Hugo, guess what? Your character's all prosthetics and makeup anyway. It could be a monkey with the same shaped face.
Now they're bringing the Matrix back. Apparently, they're bringing the Matrix back. So I got news for you. They should get that guy from Walking Dead to be Mr. Anderson. Bring you all together, Hugo. I don't give a shit about you either. It's not challenging enough for you. You know what I mean? You know,
that dude's great too. I mean, if you look him up, he has like hundreds of voices he does.
He's a big voice guy, and it's amazing because like obviously you don't get that when you watch like The Walking Dead, because on The Walking Dead you're a DC guy. The guy that plays the King is Cyborg on Teen Titans Go,
right?
And he's been in other Justice League animated movies and animated shows as Cyborg and other characters. But you forget, they're like, yo, the King sounds familiar. Oh my God, say booyah. You know, it's like, you know.
I get that all the time. Like, as big a nerd as I am, I just realized last week that Apocalypse and Poe Dameron are the same guy.
Yeah, that's right. And did you realize the original Apocalypse was the guy from Battlestar Galactica?
Yes.
Yes. A lot of people didn't realize that. It was.
I was sitting here last week and I was watching X-Men Apocalypse on TV, and they kept going into these little side things of the making of the movie. And then they showed them, and I was like, holy shit, I have no clue.
And it's like I said, this is the kind of fun things we like, and this is what we're going to do. I think the bottom line with this literally is that because we're like an hour and 18 minutes in, I think we're going to end this show pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think what it is that
next time I'm going to have to get some headphones. I feel left out.
yeah, you should. Even if they're fake. Even if they're fake, these never plugged in.
I'll hollow them out.
Yeah, they're not plugged in, whatever. I just have them on my head. It helps my hair. But
Tom Holland isn't really behind me, and headphones aren't really on my head.
yeah, that's part of my background screen. Yeah. The best is when Legrand's on it, because Legrand uses the same color as the green screen headphones, so it looks like he has a giant hole in his head
Every time he turns.
He looks like that android that's on Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. That's
I know who you're talking about, Lobot.
Yeah, the character. That's the character that Tom Holland was giving away in order to buy his passport or whatever it was. Far from home in the cut scene. But I think we're going to have plenty of Spider-Man to go around.
Yeah.
I think
so too.
I think Sony, if they keep up with what they did with Into the Spider-Verse, because we're going to get a second Into the Spider-Verse. I'm looking forward to that. I believe we're going to see Miguel O'Hara show up in.
Yeah, I'd also like to see Spider-Man 2099 in that.
I would love for that to be a feature itself. Honestly, I was a big fan of the 2099 series. I did
really dig that they had Spider-Man Noir in there.
Yeah, which was cool. I mean, Spider-Ham was there for the comic relief, and
the only character I really didn't dig was the high puffy Amiyumi chick.
What's up with that? Like, that's not even like
they threw her in there. They could have added so many other people instead of her.
Isn't there another Spider-Man?
I think they were trying to reach out to that pop BTS, teen, shit. So,
because isn't there another Spider-Man in manga?
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
I mean, granted, I think if they went
with
an
actual Spider-Man in manga, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, I know there's a certain comic which is a Spider-Verse comic, and the one from the 1978 Japanese version is one of the Spider-Men that come in.
Yeah.
Now, and I forget what his name is, a Japanese name, but I think the only problem with that character coming in would have been that he looks exactly like our Spider-Man, only that he's Japanese.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no distinction to his costume or anything like that. That would have been the only thing. But I'm pretty sure I saw there was a Spider-Man which was almost like, it kind of looked like Scarlet Spider, the original costume, but he had sneakers on and kind of looked like a skater. Almost like when you see Spider.
Well, that was Ben Reilly's first costume.
Right. But there's a manga, I think, of a Spider-Man that wears something similar to that, almost like a combination of that and Spider Punk.
I know Spider-Punk.
Where he's got the denim vest and he's got the spikes on his head, so he's like very like gnarly. You know what I mean? Because I know there's a couple games I played where Spider-Man was that was one of the Spider-Man I could choose from. And I'm like, that would have been kind of cool too, but I think you're right, because pop is so big right now. It really is so big. And that was
every little high school girl is into those Asian kids. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they were trying to reach out to with that. So none of us as adults we're feeling it, because and basically we are the ones who go see those movies because it's all nostalgia. For us.
And quite frankly, if you diagnose it for a little bit, that character makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
No.
Because her dad was a scientist who created a robot. And somehow this spider gets in the robot. And is the spider the conscious of the robot? I don't even know.
I think so. I mean, that was the take I got from it. But
then the robot gets damaged in Spider-Verse.
And she saves the spider.
And he comes up on her shoulder and he's hanging out. But the robot dies.
I think the spider,
are there 3 different people? I don't know.
In that universe, I believe that the spider gained consciousness from the doctor's experiment,
Okay.
as opposed to person being bit by spider and gaining superpowers.
Okay.
So
okay. Dumb. Very dumb.
yeah.
Very, very stupid. Okay. Just like and not to get off subject because we're talking about Spider-Man here, but like the Ultraman series that was on Netflix, visually very good, but they made another Gundam cartoon is what they did, because it had literally almost nothing to do with Ultraman whatsoever,
Right.
because the guy was in a suit, he wasn't becoming an alien,
Right.
and he wasn't giant. So I watched the whole thing, but I was like, this ain't my Ultraman. We have a mutual friend, Gus Judge, who used to own a comic book shop right down on Patrick Avenue in Philadelphia, and he says, this isn't my Spider-Man. Well, that wasn't my Ultraman as a kid. You know what I mean? My Ultraman was an alien. You know, it wasn't some guy jumping in a robot suit, you know, or whatever. But like I said, Spider-Man, I think we got a lot to come. MCU,
I think it's not necessarily, Spider-Man is out of the MCU.
Yeah.
It's Spider-Man is out of the MCU for right now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We got a lot of movies out of it.
Yeah.
If I think if Far From Home was the third movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people would be as up in arms, because I think they're feeling like this is a cliffhanger and the show's being canceled.
Right.
That's what it kind of seems like. Even though reality says Sony's going to make a third Spider-Man movie, they're just not going to have any Avengers
connection to the
right.
See.
Now, now the other thing is too that the MCU, because they were ready to make Tom Holland the face, and now that they can't do that, the rumor was that they were looking to do the new Ms. Marvel, who is that, like, I think she's like an Indian girl that can stretch,
right,
or whatever. I personally can't stand the character. I think she looks horrible. She's got powers that are done better by somebody else. And I don't understand the Ms. Marvel connection, other than saying, oh, I like Ms. Marvel, so I like Captain Marvel, so I'll be Ms. Marvel. You know what I mean? There's nothing, you know what I mean? Like, her name does not match her power and abilities. So, and it's almost like saying, hey, I'm going to have Squirrel Girl be our next head of MCU. You know, like you know what I mean? Like,
so yeah, and he was supposed to take over for Tony Stark. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had him lined up right at the top of the ladder. You know what I'm saying?
So now if they're bringing Reed Richards in, that's where Tony Stark's going to come in. They should give it to Shuri, Black Panther's sister, in all honesty. But
let him see the whole Spider-Man Reed Richards dynamic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you ever watched that. There was a series out, I want to say it was about 10 years ago, where Spider-Man, like, went over and, like, he was in some universe where everybody was taking these steroids and becoming half animal, half human. And in that cartoon, Reed Richards invented the technology that was Spider-Man's suit. Like, he would press a button and the suit would, like, materialize on him.
And so that show that you're referring to, which was Ultimate Spider-Man.
That's what it was.
No. Spider-Man Unlimited. Spider-Man Unlimited is what that was. And that show was supposed to be the sequel to Spider-Man the Animated Series, which ran its 5 seasons. Or 4.
It was supposed to be.
Right.
It was supposed to be, because the very last episode, that's when he took off in the rocket.
Right, exactly. And that's what this was supposed to pick up where that left off. But the other behind the scenes about that is that Spider-Man 2099 was real popular. That had just come out roughly a year prior. And the network heads at Fox did not think that going with a different character as Spider-Man was a smart idea. that nobody would
Right.
relate to it or nobody would get into it. So they said we can't do Spider-Man 2099, which I believe was supposed to be the original intent, just like Batman Beyond. It was supposed to be an answer to Batman Beyond, which was mega popular at that time. It was already out for like 2 years at that point. So they said, all right, well, we're not going to change it from Peter Parker. So let's do this. And hence, that's where you get Reed Richards making this nanotech suit, which for all intents and purposes, other than design, was very futuristic and provided you, even down to the cape, a Spider-Man 2099 costume, in a sense.
Right.
I don't think the Bestials was a great set of bad guys, honestly. I wasn't into, like, the Earth 2 thing was kind of cool. He went there with John Jameson to become like a rebel, to fight the Bestials and the what was it? Not the Monitor, the high evolutionary was the bad guy. And I was like, these Bestials are kind of like boring, and yeah, it's kind of cool that Parker's over here now and everybody's like either poor or up in the heavens or whatever. It was like a weird dynamic. It was very sci-fi for Spider-Man.
Right.
It was very, very sci-fi. But I think had it just went with Miguel O'Hara and became 2099, I think we would have had a really, really neat thing. And if they wrote it where you get nostalgic reminiscing of Spider-Man from 100 years ago, and that's the basis behind the work that's done at that corporation, which I forget what the corporation's called. And then hence you get Spider-Man, because you get Venom 2099. They did a lot of stuff 100 years later, and it was just great. So I think, it would have been nice and all, but Fox canceled that show, didn't even show the last episode because of the fact that it was being outrun by Digimon and Pokemon, which was the Fox Kids network bullshit. So
that's kind of why the Bestials looked the way they did. They had that Digimon look, if you realized it.
They do. I went back and watched the series. Animation-wise, it was very good. Story-wise, it could have been better. Like, I got through the first season, and had they gone into a season 2, I'd be like, all right, they need to do something else. Because they were establishing the doppelganger characters throughout the sequence. We had a very good Green Goblin. He was like a hero. And you had a bad guy that was this, and stuff like that. It was kind of getting a little old that, like, everybody that was in Spider-Man's universe on Earth 1 was on Earth 2. You know what I mean? Like, they could have maybe did some new characters or something, but like I said, Fox doesn't show, even with their TV shows, does not show loyalty to anything. One of their biggest shows was a runaway hit for Fox recently was The Orville by Seth MacFarlane. And now,
which isn't bad.
No, at all. It's great. I mean, I had
a lot of problems with that show when it first came out. But then I started watching it, and I was like, "Oh shit, this isn't just a joke."
It's not.
Like I thought it was basically just a joke on Star Trek, but it's actually a really neat show.
What he did,
and it's not as funny as people put it out there to be.
No, and it's one of those things where Next Generation, which is what they compare it to, is very Shakespearean, and like these people are so fucking pompous that they're above cursing, and they're above this, and they're above that, and they're above everything. This showed that human beings are human beings, and they're flying spaceships.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like, that was the cool thing about that. And the show is going to be on Hulu. It's not going to be on Fox, so Fox let it go. It's going to be on Hulu for season 3, which comes out in 2020. So it's not coming out.
That hurts them. Because now people who were into the show aren't going to get to see it. Because me personally, I already have 2 streaming services. How many more am I supposed to sign up for? Eventually, everybody's just going to have a streaming service, and there is going to be no more cable. You know what I'm saying? And it's just ridiculous to me. I mean, I have WWE Network, which I love, and I get my money's worth out of.
Yeah.
Because every night I watch a little bit before I go to bed, just watching old matches and stuff.
Right.
And I also have I also have Netflix.
Right.
But the money I spend on WWE Network is worth it to me. The Netflix part isn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How often do I watch the Netflix? But I literally watch WWE Network every night before I go to bed.
And that's the thing.
So,
and you know what? If you go back and you're a
the only
wrestling
way
fan,
I will pick up another streaming service is if it's Led Zeppelin 4. I have to like every song on the album.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about WWE Network. I like everything they offer me. And that's why I watch it so much.
Back when WCW was in place, and now we're talking wrestling, but back when WCW was in place, it was on TNT. I watched everything on TNT because wrestling was on there. The moment that wrestling left Turner Broadcasting, I honestly can tell you, aside from Cartoon Network, I didn't watch, not on purpose, but I had no reason to watch anything that was on a Turner Broadcasting channel. I haven't watched TV.
I feel that way about South Philadelphia.
Right.
I used to go down to the Toys R Us in South Philadelphia. And when I was there, I would hit all the surrounding stores. When Toys R Us went out of business, I have no reason to go to that section of town anymore.
Right. Exactly. And now we can equate this to this. Is now Tom Holland going to Sony? Is that going to cause some kind of repercussion to the MCU? I don't think
really
so.
don't think it will. Because he already exists in the MCU.
Well, yeah, he does. But the thing is, and going back to what I said before, and I really don't think it's just me. Their Phase 4 presentation was very lackluster.
Well, that's because, like I said, they had Secret Wars planned. They had so many other things planned, and most of those things that were planned involved Tom Holland. And now that he's not there anymore, they had to go hush-hush on all that stuff because some of that stuff, it probably isn't even going to get made or it's shelved now.
Or has to be revamped with a different character.
Correct.
This could not have happened at a worse time.
No, absolutely.
For Marvel.
For Marvel. I mean, this is Marvel will stand tall. I have no doubt in my mind about it. But this is a blow to Marvel. It really, really is.
It is and it isn't at the same time. And the only reason I say that it isn't is because he exists already in that universe. And if somebody says, where's Spider-Man? Oh, he's just off fighting somebody else. He couldn't be here today.
Yeah. That's it.
It's not like that character is dead in their universe.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So
now, and they can't use him at all. So it's not like they can even recast him.
Right.
They just can't use the character at all.
But they can say his name.
But here's the thing that you have to understand. They have now the Fantastic Four that they have to establish. They have now mutants that they have to establish. I got news for you. By the time we got the Fantastic Four, by the time we have mutants established in the MCU, you're going to have forgotten all about Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
You really are. I mean, and remember, movies, it goes back to what I was saying before. The timeline in a comic book is so much slower or longer than a movie. You can equate it to a human being versus a dog. A dog is lucky if he lives 10, 12 years. A human being is lucky if they live 80, 90 years. It's a big difference in time. We're the comic book, that's the movie. They live a lifetime in a much shorter lifespan, and that's what happens in these movies. That's why characters get killed off. That's why they kill things, because they know, hey, dude, we're only doing 3 movies. There's no time for him to come back. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's why the Green Lantern movie failed so miserably.
Yeah.
Because they tried to squeeze everything into that first movie with the whole parallax and everything like that. Do you know that it took 50 issues of comics to get to parallax?
Yeah.
And they tried to do it in 1 2-hour movie.
Well, I think they were really trying to establish, yellow versus green.
Right.
And they were trying to establish,
what you said earlier about the guy who was the Red Skull.
Yeah.
You had the same problem in that movie with Sinestro. That guy was a big-time Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
And he was underused in the role of Sinestro.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the reasons that there was no Green Lantern movie too, because he felt that they underused him in that movie, and he wasn't going to come back for the next one.
Now, granted, we could have had a full movie where the temptation to move to yellow was happening and Sinestro still was green. Like you're saying, they rushed that along. We did not need Sinestro to make the decision right then and there. That they to equate it to something bigger, that could have been like episode 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars.
Right.
And by the third episode, we get Sinestro. That's, and we could have explored the Red Lantern Corps. We could have explored Parallax. Parallax being the thing that pushed him over the edge and brought him to yellow. You could have seen the Darth Vader story in Sinestro.
Well, see, what I didn't like was they put Parallax in the movie, but they didn't do it in the whole Hal Jordan went nuts way.
Right.
Hal Jordan went nuts and became Parallax. They tried to make him like a gaseous cloud.
Like his own being. Yeah.
You didn't get to see Hal Jordan kill all the Green Lanterns and put on all the rings and until he became omnipotent and just turned into Parallax. And then in that movie, in that series, he was so strong they had to release Sinestro from the power battery just to fight him as Parallax.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And there was so much they could have did with that, but they squeezed it all into one movie. And
for those out there who don't understand completely what we're saying, because he's making a very good point, is that the whole point of the Green Lanterns is that the power, it comes from the will. It comes from the feelings inside: fear, will, hope, anger, etc. Okay? So Parallax was not a being. Parallax was Hal Jordan giving into other feelings, because the whole point of that was that Hal Jordan couldn't save somebody that he loved or whatever the case was, and he went back
because Mongrel and Cyborg Superman destroyed Coastal City, and that was like his home place.
Right.
His whole town was destroyed, and he couldn't do anything to stop it. And that drove him crazy.
But then he go in against core rules and did something, and what he did was he acted selfishly, which was against the will. It was against what you do as a core Green Lantern. So therefore he gets, like, it's like a cop, they're taking his badge. Say, hey, you messed up. You got to turn this ring in. You're no longer a lantern, because you went against what we say to do. There's a prime directive and you went against it. And therefore he goes crazy and blah, blah. And then eventually he becomes the Spectre, for a time being.
That was great when he became the Spectre.
Right.
That's a whole nother story though.
And that's a redemption thing.
Right.
Now we got to talk about DC, and I think in the next episode, because we're touching a lot of stuff on a Spider-Man episode that has nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Well, the reason I bring all this DC stuff on is, and a lot of people hate me for saying this. Like I said, I'm a diehard DC guy, but to me, Marvel is a crock of shit. All right, don't get me wrong. They have a lot of awesome characters, but DC did it first. Okay, and DC, every one of their characters has an origin story. Marvel, only like their famous 7 have origin stories. Okay, every character in the DC universe has an origin story. Marvel, basically, they're cop-outs now, and they're like, oh, well, how did you get your powers? Oh, I was born this way. I'm a mutant. And DC came first. Like a lot of their characters were based off of DC characters. So,
are you done talking about Marvel?
Hey, Dan, I would wait to seek medical attention before you pull that dagger out of your heart. Okay.
You want to see Hal Jordan go nuts? Son of a bitch. Well, you know what though? If
cut your heart out.
Name one DC character who doesn't have a background story. I can name 100 Marvel characters who don't.
Who don't have a background story?
Correct.
Oh, I don't know.
Who don't have an origin.
That don't have an origin. Oh, I don't know. They all kind of showed. Well, if you go with the mutants, everybody just kind of like one day was like, "Hey, I got powers."
Exactly, and that's the thing that bothers me. There is no last son of a dying planet. There is no my parents were killed by criminals. There is no I was struck by lightning in my lab working one night. It's hey, how'd you get your powers? Oh, I was born this way.
Well, I mean, Spider-Man did have Uncle Ben. Now, granted, he didn't get his powers from it.
I said, their famous 7 have background stories, but after they got past the 7, everybody else is a mutant.
Ms. Marvel is your Superman connection. I mean, you got obviously doppelgangers across the board. You have Namor versus Arthur Curry. You have, you know.
Really? Have you ever read Amalgam?
Some, yeah. Some.
I mean, they basically matched up everybody from the Marvel universe with the DC universe, who was like their counterpart.
Well, they had like Dark Claw was Wolverine and Batman.
What year was DC Comics established?
I don't know. You tell me, because you're the DC guy.
that was like the 1920s or 30s or something,
right?
Early 40s, maybe at the latest.
It was Detective Comics.
1938.
1938, yeah.
It was September 1938 was the first Superman. All right.
That's not Detective Comics. That's when it goes.
No, Detective Comics came out 2 years after Superman. Believe it or not, Wonder Woman came before Batman.
Okay.
Wonder Woman came the year after Superman, and then Batman came the year after that. Now, how many years later was Marvel Comics established?
That had to be in the 60s, right?
Almost 30 years later.
Yeah.
Where did they get their ideas from? Siegel and Schuster.
Yeah.
They used DC's template to create their famous 7. And the famous 7 was what laid the ground for the rest of the Marvel universe, who no longer need origin stories. Right. So to me, that's why DC is always going to be top of the line. You know, now, it's like, would you rather have a Dietz and Watson hot dog, or would you rather have a Nathan's hot dog?
Now, Nathan's I don't like.
Blew that argument right out of the way.
I don't like that taste at all. You son of a bitch.
Oscar Mayer, motherfuckers.
I know. I don't like Oscar Mayer either anymore. I like Ballpark. But now we're talking about hot dogs. We got a different show.
You understand? I use analogies a lot.
No. It's good. It's good. Now, we're going to start wrapping this up here.
Yeah. Wow, now we're 45 minutes already. Lord.
This might be.
I'm going to use this show for a shameless plug. Yes. Guys, next weekend, come on out and see me. I'll be at RetroCon on the 14th and the 15th at Great Oaks, PA Convention Center in Oaks. Come out and see me. You'll be able to witness a live podcast of New Comic Book Wednesdays. I'll be set up there with my wares, selling nerd toys for the whole 2 days. It's a big live pop culture event. Gil Gerard's going to be there. The woman who played She-Ra is going to be there. They'll have the A-Team band. All sorts of stuff out there. They have nerd karaoke. At night, they have a concert by these guys called Cybertronic Spree, who dress up as Transformers, and they're live band, and they're a live band, and they do all the songs from the original 80s cartoons. It's a hell of a time. It's an inexpensive con, and it's not a greedy convention. It's not overpriced.
Yeah, I've been there.
Even the dealers are on the cheaper side. So come on out and see us. I do free autographs. I do free photos, free everything.
I want your autograph. I want your autograph. I can't even get you the hell on this show.
I should cancel my plans for next week and start driving up on Friday morning.
Is that Sunday too? You said Saturday and Sunday?
It's Saturday and Sunday, yes.
Saturday and Sunday. I think I might come up Sunday. That's an Oaks.
Come on up.
Yeah, I might come up. Maybe we'll sit down.
We'll do a video together.
Yeah, we'll do a show together. I think it'll be good. So do that, and make sure you see Bobby T on New Comic Book Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, I make sure we get it posted up. As soon as he puts it up on Facebook, I then put it up on the channel. That's a great show because he'll give you the week's worth of what's out now. He talks about the toys. He talks about the comics. He talks about the variant covers. It's a great show. If there's someone that's into buying comics and they're like, hey, I need suggestions, that's the show to watch. It really is. And you're going to want to watch that. And that's right out of South Philadelphia. You're right there on South Street, right?
Yes, it comes out of a store called Atomic City Comics.
Atomic City Comics, right on South Street, South Philadelphia. Is that South Philly? That's South Philly, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, South
Still
Philly.
considered South Philly. It's on the cusp of South Philly.
I was going to say, yeah, it's right there. But definitely go out if you're local.
We even talk about Marvel Comics in that. So it's not just all DC.
I watch just to make sure. But no, that's great. Check him out on there. Make sure you go on Facebook as well and look up new Comic Book Wednesdays. You can like the page right there. A lot of great. They also have a lot of other contributors to that page, which put a lot of different stuff on there. I see a lot of different toys that are added to there. If you're a big fan of the toys, especially Transformer stuff, there's so much Transformer stuff that comes up. I'm actually trying. I'm trying to get my life together because I'm producing 19 million shows, but I have a lot of toys that I'm trying to put up on video that I'm going to put on there, and I'm going to do that soon too. Matt Sunner, you're going to see him on Have You Seen It Lately?
Have you seen it lately?
And I haven't seen it lately. So
no, unfortunately, we have not seen it lately. Unfortunately, again, as Dan's producing 19 million shows, it keeps my co-host away from recording, and obviously our schedules. We're having a lot of trouble getting our days kind of lined up. But I do plan on getting into the studio coming in the next couple days. Do a couple of not even have you seen it lately, but have you seen it? A couple of my favorite movies that I've enjoyed, whether they be very low budget. They might even be movies that are kind of bad, but they're maybe a good idea to get some of your smart aleck friends together and do a Mystery Science Theater 3000 night and just rip it apart, because it's entertaining to rip it apart more than anything else.
It really is.
So we're planning on getting a couple of mini episodes done for that while Dan and I are still trying to get our schedules together.
And then also you can catch Matt Sunner on DJs After Dark. I was about to say DJ's not included.
DJ's not included.
I mean, my next show. The DJs
there
After
you go.
Dark.
That'd be interesting.
If you liked Howard Stern, if you liked to have cool, road stories from DJs, and there are a lot of funny stuff we talk about. A lot of funny stuff. And it's for adults. It ain't for kids. So it's a rated R show. You're going to want to check out DJs After Dark. Actually, we have new episodes coming out next week. And then coming up in October, I'm very excited with the very, very lovely Stacy Frieders. She's going to be hosting Bite Me, which is going to be a look into horror movies, all the bad ones, all the good ones, what's funny about them, what's great about them, what sucks about them. She's going to bring it back to us right there. That's coming this October, right in time for Halloween. We're going to have Bite Me right here on the DJB Production Network. It's going to be fantastic. Bob Taylor, thank you very much for coming on. Matt
I'm sorry for my late arrival, but
it was worth it.
You said 4:30, and I didn't hear from you until 5:15, and I was tied up with something, and then I seen your call, and I was like, oh, shit.
You were on a call the entire time. Every time I tried to send you a link, it said, Bob is on a call, and it hung up on me.
I was on the phone with my girl.
And I was like, and I said, I didn't say it on the show, but I said, I know he's talking. He's in.
Well, we're setting everything up for RetroCon next weekend because she wants to get a room and come down and everything. So
she's a cosplayer as well, so that's fun. She'll be there at the Oaks.
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, she's coming to New York Comic Con with me next month, so she's trying to see if she can do both.
Very cool. So definitely check that out. And we're actually going to do some Capes Not Included from some of these cons, along with Bobby T, which is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to try and set that up. But definitely go down and hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell. Leave comments. That helps with the search engine optimization. And obviously share the channel. So for Bobby T, for Matt Sunner, my name is Danny J. Until next time, keep your nose to the wind and your cape to the stars or something like that, because I completely messed up my tagline. Until next time, guys, have a great one. We'll see you very, very soon.